Now, the next story takes us to KwaZulu-Natal, and it's really hard to hear about. It deals with a child failed, it seems, by everyone who's meant to protect him. A 12-year-old boy with cerebral palsy died this past weekend. It's now emerged he was buried without an autopsy or the death being reported by the parents. There are concerns he was being mistreated. I'm joined now by Deputy Minister of Social Development, Hendrietta Bogopane-Zulu. Thank you so much for joining us. This is such a horrific story. When did you first become aware of it?
Well, let me start by reminding South Africa this is Disability Awareness Month, and we were in KZN on Wednesday at the Golden Steps, which is one of the schools for intellectually disabled children that was looted last year in June in KZN, broken and everything. We mobilized all the sponsors and we went there to hand back the school to the principals after the private sector joined us to renovate the school as one of our roadshow on Disability Awareness Month. And when I walked out of the venue to my car, 4 ladies came and you could see they've been waiting for me for a very long time. Can we talk to you? I was like, I'm on my way to the airport. They like, we beg you, but whatever we're going to talk to you, please don't say it's us. Then they tell me the story that there's this disabled child that's been locked up in a windy house. And when they went to go see the child, they were told the child died on Saturday around 5 in the afternoon and was buried on Sunday at 7 in the morning. I'm like, what? No coffin, no nothing. They just threw the child in the hole. I was like, God, just make sure this is not true. So I changed my flight and activated our DSD crew, your social workers, established that the child was seen by a social worker, and the first time the issue was reported by the community nurse to ourselves, our team in KZN. So we went the following morning, Thursday, we went to the family, and obviously we were not confrontational, and we asked, we are coming here to see the child, and they said, sorry, the child has died. Can we please have a copy of the death certificate, because the child is getting a grant, so we can close our files also. And then the lady tells us, like, the way the women said it, he's dead, and we buried him on. I'm like, what? Okay, guys. So I called the police, and I said to them, all right, let's go identify the grave. And as you can see, we went, they showed me the grave. I stood there with Team DSD like, this is not real. So I called all the different divisions, as you can see, and they came first with the dog to make sure that the dog can sniff and see, and that is exactly what happened. The dog confirmed that there is a person there. And we stood there because now I had to sit there and guard the grave so that it's not tampered with. And we sat there, and it was a horror movie unfolding. And when it comes to disabled children, I go mad, like literally.
This is, yeah, I mean, it's such a desperately sad story that you're telling us. So have you got any, obviously these 4 ladies are alleging that this child was mistreated. Do you have any indication at this stage that what they're alleging might be true?
No, it is true. Look, the child was 12. I thought that the face of the child would not be shown, but the child was 12-year-old. The child has never seen the sun. The child has never gone to school. So you're not looking for anything more than that. That is the beginning of where the problem is. How does a 12-year-old stay and locked up, left alone in a house? They go, wherever they go, come back. You don't have to look, because that child can't walk, that child can't hold anything. The child is just lying there.
Yeah.
And you have the mother of the child died when the child was 3 months old. And the father is the one that was staying with the child. And he's the one that dug up the hole to throw his own child in there. So, the whole family, the grandparents, the aunties, I'm like, where were you guys? No, we tried to talk to him, and I'm like, well, you're all guilty.
What did they say? What did the family say to you about how this child died? What did they say happened?
Nobody seems to know how the child died. They say the child became the stepmother that stays with the father. The father says he was at work. The stepmother says no. The child was hot, and then she went and mixed the panado and gave the child, and she realized the child. I'm like, so why was the child not taken to the clinic? Nobody can answer.
Is it?
Okay.
I mean, I suppose what I'm grappling with, Deputy Minister, is a sense of disbelief, because I don't want to believe, pretty much as you were feeling, that this child was mistreated. So I'm asking you for, like, where are the clear signs of mistreatment? Is it a strong suspicion at this stage and is going to have to be investigated based on these very worrying allegations and what you've been able to pick up? What is the next step? What happens now?
Obviously, we took the child, activated all the state. That child is now at a government mortuary. The child is going to go have an autopsy. I've already opened an inquest to make sure that the investigation is done. We have the investigating officer already allocated, and we are at the moment trying to get some funds to make sure the child is properly gets a dignified burial, because that is, I mean, the child didn't have dignity when the child was alive, and they denied the child dignity when the child is dead. So I just feel like
it's a very tragic story. I think you mentioned a little earlier to me that there was a social worker dealing with his case. Did I hear you correctly there? Before he died?
No, you heard me.
Yeah.
You heard me correctly. The social worker was allocated after the community nurse from our Kwandengeza local office in next to Pinetown. And the social worker did go, and the social worker did assess the child. And she went twice, and she kind of did not remove the child. When I asked her what happened, she says, no, the father didn't cooperate. And the second thing is that they get hijacked a lot when they go to that area. And so she did not go anymore, because that side, they abuse social workers. And I mean, the abuse of social workers is real. It's not, they get killed.
I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. But I mean, I suppose the question that I have to ask is, if a social worker had visited this boy twice, why did she not flag possible mistreatment? Did she say that she was worried about mistreatment? Did she flag it?
Look, on this one, I think as social development, it won't really assist us to point the fingers at the social worker. Yes, the social worker messed up. The supervisor did not know, because the process is, whenever you get a case, that's why social workers has supervisors. You advise your supervisor, and the supervisor, we have the authority to remove the child. So I don't even want to say what happened, because I was annoyed with the social worker, but also it showed us that sometimes the system doesn't work.
Yeah,
the social
exactly. I mean, this is the thing. You're so right, Deputy Minister, because this is the problem, is that the role of the state in a situation like this is, you know, and if the social worker had never known, if it had never been made clear, the social worker, and it's not to point a finger of blame at her directly, but it's to say that if the system is failing these children, we have a real problem. And I hear the problems that are not enough social workers. They get attacked. So, Minister, I would imagine that you're also going to be looking within your own department and saying, right, how do we fix the system? Am I right?
Definitely. Look, I've already activated that process, and I can't say it's all provinces. The provinces, but it's also not the whole of KZN. The biggest error here was not reporting to your supervisor, but at the same time, not removing the child. Because the minute you identify that this child is in need of care, if you are afraid to remove the child alone, you go to the police station and the police must go with you and remove the child. But it's an ongoing. Hence, I have activated the whole child protection system and really said, guys, how did this happen? And I've briefed the MEC and the HOD to say they need to look into their systems, because in other provinces the system works. So it's not a national thing, neither is it a provincial thing. But if this time around, it really failed this child.
It's tragic. It's absolutely tragic, because that child could have been removed to a place of safety if indeed there were legitimate concerns, as it seems now you're suggesting there were from the report of the social worker, and unfortunately it never went further. But I want to thank you, Deputy Minister, for telling us about this, because it's cases like these that highlight where the problems are, that they need to be tackled. Deputy Minister of Social Development, Hendrietta Bogopane-Zulu, of course, talking to us about this 12-year-old boy who had cerebral palsy. He died and he was buried. No death certificate, no reporting of the death. A lot of very serious questions about that.